Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host, Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. In today's episode, or this evening's episode, I just want to touch on the AFLW. I know it can be controversial. I understand everybody's opinion is different, and I respect everybody's opinion. But I got to just vent some frustration out because I love this football club and I watch all forms of football from this football club. So I need to talk about this. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Okay, so this entire episode is a first jab. This entire episode is me venting my frustration at our program, me venting my frustration at the people at the women that we have in our team, and also about the state of Victoria Park. So let's just do it.
Shame on anyone who blew the champion.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Now, I am going to post this video and I'm going to say I absolutely respect the AFLW. I respect the women that play in all the teams. And this is not a video that is going to criticize the people that are playing the game. This is a video that's going to criticize the AFLW system at the Collingwood Football Club. Now, let me explain. As I said in the intro, I'm a massive Collingwood supporter. I watch all forms of Collingwood's football, whether it's the AFL, the AFLW. I follow the wheelchair. I follow the VFL. I follow the women's VFL. I might not go to all the games, but I'm watching, I'm looking at the reports, I'm looking at stats and everything like that. So I have to be extremely clear about that. The first jab that I've got to do is the recruitment of the players at our football club and the contracts and persisting with the same sort of players. Now, Bree Davey is a gun footballer. She proved herself, obviously, at the Carlton Football Club as a really good player. Came over to Collingwood, starred straight away. She hasn't played a game in 3 years. She busted her ankle before the season started. Now, obviously, she's had a preseason. She's trained and everything, whatever. I would be shocked if this was a men's program and you had a player who, was a good player in the side, a really strong player in the side, and continued to get injured. That player would probably be delisted and put on a rookie list, or that person would be cut. Now, this is no disrespect to her, because I think she's a fantastic footballer, and I also followed her when she was playing soccer at Melbourne City, and she was Melbourne City's goalkeeper, and she was a championship-winning goalkeeper as well. So she's extremely talented. But you can't keep persisting with this same sort of system. You can't keep persisting with the same sort of players that don't give out the input that they once did. I mean, the one that I can talk to you about, and I've got the women's list up here on my screen here, and there's a couple of players just so I don't forget. Sarah Rowe. Now, I think she's a really good football player. She's a great soccer player. But I think the time's passed now. She's been in the side now for 5-6 years or whatever it is. You've got to look past it. You've got to now say, okay, you've contributed, and you go again. A few years ago, we lost, I think, 4 or 5 different players. It was the year that, after our second year, we lost Emma King and we lost a couple of other players to North Melbourne. We lost Mo Hope at the start, who, was drafted to Collingwood or picked up by Collingwood as, this absolute elite forward. And nothing prospered. Didn't prosper when she went to North Melbourne as well, and now she's playing for Aberfeldy in the EDFL. It's just frustrating when I have to sit. I sit there and I watch it and I get excited because it's Collingwood's playing regardless if it's the AFLW competition, and I genuinely want this team to do well. I genuinely want to see the women's football team, compete for a premiership. There was one season, I think it was in 2021 or whatever it was, we did really well. And then obviously, the season got cut short and we're in a prelim final. It was very disappointing because I reckon that we could have made the granny. You take Britt Benici out of this team, we don't have a lot. We genuinely don't. We went down the romantic path of, Gavin Brown's daughter. She's not playing for the football club at the moment. Ruby Slosh is, a rock solid midfielder who, Ruby Slosh reminds me of a player that plays at like the Western Bulldogs, that plays at Brisbane, that plays at Adelaide, that plays at North Melbourne. Those systems in the AFLW are so strong and they work. And I'm dumbfounded sometimes to see why we can't translate it. We have a really strong men's program. We have a really good VFL men's program. The VFLW girls made the grand final. So what's the gap? That's what I want to know. And I'm inviting people now to who watch the women's footy. And I know there's not going to get a bigger, reaction as to what I do when I talk about, obviously, the AFL stuff and everything. But from a Collingwood lover, from a Collingwood perspective, I hate watching the games every week and seeing us get slapped. I hate watching the games every week and seeing, we're missing easy shots on goal. The skill level, and I got to be careful when I say this, and I'm putting myself out there and I'm going to back everything in that I say, and I say it with all due respect, but the skill level, and I'm not comparing it to, the AFL stuff, because that's the total different, literally a different ball game. But I just sometimes think to myself, when these players are running into open goals and they're missing, like from the goal square, I know it happens in the AFL sometimes, but nowhere near as much as what happens with us. Lucille Cronin, I think she's a gun. She's an awesome player. Violet Patterson, Stephen Patterson's daughter, again, the father-daughter side of things, she looks promising as well. So I really want to see us try and be competitive and go forward from there, because it's just sad to see that we're competitive for a couple of quarters or a quarter and a half, and then it dies off. And then, the game against Richmond on the weekend, and this brings me to my next point. We're playing at Victoria Park. Victoria Park is a sacred ground for all Collingwood supporters. It is a sacred football ground. It means a lot when, the VFL plays there, the VFLW plays there, the AFLW plays there. It means a lot to Collingwood supporters. Now, Barry Karp came out when he became president, and he put out, a good, I don't want to say statement, but an introduction about himself and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things he said was that he wants to talk about the redevelopment of Victoria Park, the facilities and all that type of stuff. Now, I know that they're going to do stuff to Victoria Park, and I think everybody's got a fair idea or a fair understanding that they're going to, spruce up the club rooms. They want to fix things up, because, I filmed an intro to the Share and Stand video that I did, a few months back now, and I sat in the Share and Stand and I looked over and there's dogs walking on the ground. There's, people, having picnics on there. There's dogs, shitting on the ground. And the ground didn't even look even. Like, it looked like there was potholes and God knows what. I understand it's a council-owned property. I understand that, anybody can go in there and walk. But when you've got the elite of the elite in the AFLW, you've got the Collingwood Football Club going there to play a game. And if you had seen this, for those that watched the game, had seen the state of the Victoria Park surface, I was embarrassed. I was dead set embarrassed as a Collingwood supporter to sit there and see it on TV and sit there next to my old man and watch the game and see the goal square being uneven, the patches of missing grass everywhere. And I understand, like, you're going to have, like, boot marks and stuff like that you do at normal, like, local footy grounds, community footy grounds. There might be a patch here and there. I get it, because it's not, you're not playing AFL and stuff on there. But what's the difference? I'm calling out what's the difference. That you want to talk about equality, you want to talk about all this type of stuff, and I've got my own opinions and my political opinions, and I've got my football opinions and whatnot. But if they are screaming, and when I say they, I meant the AFLW and the players are screaming for better pay, better this, that, equalisation, pay gaps and that type of stuff, which I can respect to an extent, 100%, right? And I understand, because they've got to put in the effort at the same time too, regardless if the season's shorter, regardless if they're not drawing as much revenue in as what the men's competition does. You've still got to give them, they're the elite of the elite in their field. and that has to be respected. But this is where the AFL needs to come in. And if you're going to treat the AFLW the same as the AFL, those type of grounds, Victoria Park, you need to fix. So Barry Karp's come out and he said, back to the Barry Karp side of things, that he was going to do the redevelopment, stuff like that. You can't have our women's team hosting Richmond with our Victoria Park ground looking like that. Go play it at the AIA Centre. Go play it there because you put the money into that ground to make sure that ground's just as good as the MCG on grand final day. Fix up Victoria Park because that was a dead set embarrassment. And I feel for the girls that are playing on a ground like that. I feel for the players, the umpires. I feel for the opposition that have to come to that because I can guarantee you Punt Road's not like that. Richmond don't play at Punt Road. But Punt Road Oval being redeveloped would have been 10 times better than that. Why? Because there's people on that ground 24/7 that are chewing it up. You may as well have gone and played that ground on the Woodlesey Showgrounds. You may as well, and that's probably in a better condition. You may as well have gone and played that ground at Layla Bloods' Oval or something like that. Why would you present that? It's disgusting. I feel for the players. I understand, as I said at the start, that there's not a lot of people who are AFLW fans, and I understand there's a political sort of aspect to it. I understand, people have all these vast different opinions, but you can push them aside to 1 second. If you're a Collingwood supporter and you enjoy watching football during the off-season for the AFL, when the girls are playing, if it's on TV, you can't tell me you're not going to sit there and just at least flick it on for a bit and watch it because your team is playing, the colours are playing, especially when they're at Victoria Park. So if there's anybody from the Collingwood Football Club that ever watches this video, fix the ground because that's a fucking embarrassment. Anyway, drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.